fall under plunder if it's an outright gift or donation?
Sa tingin ko, it should fall under graft lang yan.
Graft
hindi
lang?
Hindi naman pwedeng plunder. Hindi naman pera ng gobyerno yan eh.
Nako.
So, paano papasok ang plunder? Graft siguro, yes. Anti-graft. Receiving...
Yun naman pala, dapat graft lang. Pambihira naman kasi itong si Boy Remulla eh. Rinekta niya ng plunder eh. Dito sa video na to, in-interview ho, itong si Atty. Salvador Panelo. Kaugnay, siya kinahaharap na plunder case na itong si Senator Dante Marcoleta. Ambush interview, itong si Senator Alan Peter Cayetano at ang mga punto de vista nitong si dating Senator Honasan. Pero bago lahat nangyari, isang like at isang subscribe na sa ho tayo dyan sa mga gusto sumali sa ating community. Yung join button, nandiyan lang ho sa baba. Unahin na ho natin itong kay former Senator Honasan. Sabi ho niya kasi dito, kasi kita na ho ngayong mga panahon na ito talagang wine-weaponize ho ng administrasyon itong si Marcos Jr. ang mga ahensya ng pamahalaan. Manakot, mangkaso, magkulong. Mula kay Pastor Kibuloy hanggang dito kay dating Pangulong Rodrigo Duterte, kinasangkapan ho ng administrasyon na to para gibitin yung mga kalaban nila sa politika. Ang pinakamatindi ho talaga ginawa ng administrasyon na to yung pagkidnap at pagpapadala dito kay dating Pangulong Rodrigo Duterte sa dahig na dahilan. Sabi ho nitong si former Senator Honasan, the AFP and PNNBI legally authorized armed groups, constitutional instrument of any government's primary responsibility, harmony in families, cooperation in communities, order in states, inclusive growth in the nation, and security in our shores cannot be used by anyone to inflict harm on Filipino lives, liberty and property, and stable peaceful descent. Yun ang problema dito. Kasi talagang nakita nyo naman ho yung ginawang pagngudngud ng mga pulis doon sa mga nagrally kahapon. Sobrang dami ng mga kababayan nating INC, hindi na ho talaga nila napigilan. Pero kung malit na grupo to tapos nagrally-rally na gano'n at ang kanilang panawagan, tawag dito, yung kaso labang hindi yung kaso kay Senator Dante Marcoleta, yung plunder case na usahan ay pinapanawagan na talagang wag gamitin yung mga kasong kagaya nito para ikulong yung mga nagsasalita para sa ating bayan. Sa tingin ho natin, kung sino man ang nagkilos protesta dyan, malamang sa malamang pinagdadampot na ho nitong mga pulis na to. Pero ngayong araw, balita ho natin, meron daw ng permit ang INC. Ito mga kababayan, pakinggan ho natin itong ambush interview nitong si Senator Cayetano kahapon na pagkatapos ho niya nagsalita diyan sa napakalaging rally sa EDSA kahapon. Game.
Alam niyo po, mahirap kami senador na. But whether you talk of yung magkapatid na Villar na alam naman natin kaliwat kanan yung kaso dahil nga naninindigan or dahil nung eleksyon may tampo sa kanila. Si Senator Padilla, tuloy-tuloy ang bati ko sa kanya pero nakita niyo yung mga sakripisyo. Si Senator Bato, hindi naman niya kailangan magpakita doon but he wanted yung pagbabago. Si Senator Bongo, sinasabi palabas na yung kanyang warrant. Of course, si Senator Jinggoy kinulong na and is willing to present evidence na binabargain sa kanya na lumipat lang siya ng site, hindi siya ikukulong. So hindi ko nababanggit lahat, narinig niyo yung speech ko kanina. So kung kami, nahihirapan kami sa sitwasyon na may cover up sa pagnanakaw sa ating bansa dito sa flood control, nahihirapan kami na ang sinasabi maging fair lang yung impeachment. Pero ayaw nila na mag-preside, hindi sila. Ayaw nila na ibang majority. What more the ordinary Filipino na konting ulan ba na? What more the ordinary Filipino na yung pagtaas ng gasolina, either nawalan ng trabaho or hindi na nila makatid yung crops nila. So yung paghihirap nandyan at ang Pilipino is very mapagtiis eh. Abang hindi kailangan umangal, hindi aangal. Pero itong after Jinggoy, sinasabi na kay Bongo, palabas na yung ICC warrant. Tapos plunder for campaign contribution na hindi na kinabang in the sense that hindi naman yumaman si Senator Marcoleta doon. So when I saw that spontaneously lumabas ang mga tao, I felt I owe it to them na the fight is not just in the Senate, it's in the hearts and minds. So pwedeng sa Facebook yan, pwedeng sa Instagram yan, pwedeng nasa ini-interview nyo, pwedeng nasa schools. And despite all of this, yung day-to-day problems, drugs, violence sa ating mga kabataan, tuloy-tuloy yun. So for people to sacrifice their time, umabsent, magutom, to be here, siguro maliit na bagay na dumating tayo makisa.
Sir, do you find it strange na the case against Senator Marcoleta may be filed a week before the impeachment trial?
In a sense, it's strange because for me it's nonsense. But we expected it. Nung February 4, nung una kaming nakatikim ng pag kami naging majority, ibabargain na yung kaso. So akala namin totoo yung sinabi lang wag lang si Loren. Nung ako na umupo at willing silang ipadala ang NBI na armado, not just once but twice sa Senado. Tapos nung kitang-kita paano kinulong si Jinggoy, naging reality na sa amin to. So lahat kami, we're on borrowed time. Pero pinapasa Diyos namin, 40 years of EDSA. Ano ba sabi ng ni dating Senator Ninoy Aquino? Diba? The Filipino is worth fighting for. Then naging worth dying for because he gave his life. So siguro naman yung konting oras na samahan ko ang mga naninindigan dito is a little inconvenience, but it can be. So pasensya na po yung mga natatraffic, but protests are meant to inconvenience para magising tayo sa nangyayari.
Have you spoken to Senator Marcoleta?
Not yet. I haven't.
Pero hanggang kailan daw po
lahat kami no idea. So actually since this morning, 2 different channels, nagpapaabot ako until nung nagla-lunch ako, another common friend na nagsabing, you're welcome to come. I think sumagot one si Senator Marcoleta na parang nagtanong yung isa kong friend, paano kami tutulong sir? Sinabi lang padala ng tubig.
Sir, meron pa pong ilang senador sa minority na inaasahan at pupunta dito?
I think so.
Sino po, sir?
I know Senator Aimee. I don't know the others kasi nga kahapon lang namin nalaman. In fact, meron ako isang trip and I was intended to meet some OFWs. I had to cancel it this morning. Nung nalaman ko yesterday na yan na yung statement ng ombudsman. Thank you guys.
Good morning, Attorney Sal.
Good morning, Karen.
Let's start with the decision of the Ombudsman to file plunder cases against Senator Marcoleta, which he announced on Monday. Do you agree with this decision? Are there elements of plunder?
Well, actually, I cannot decide on that because I have not seen the complaint. But what I'm more interested in is that this same ombudsman said I think more than 2 weeks ago, said he would be filing cases against Senator Escudero, Senator Villanueva. What happened to that? Suddenly, it's another senator that he is filing a charge with. Bakit?
Yeah.
Dahil pa bumaliktad yung dalawa?
But I want to talk about the plunder
Masyado kasing obvious yung ginawa na yun ni Boying Remulla. Naniniwala tayo, marami ang hindi natutuwa doon sa naging decision na yun ng administration.
case against Senator Marcoleta. This is for the 75 million pesos that was
Donation.
donated to Senator Marcoleta by 3 individuals. And according to Assistant Ombudsman Nico Clavano, when I listened to his explanation, sabi niya meron daw kasing isang category ng plunder. They acknowledge that this is not in relation to public funds, that this was given willingly by private individuals, but they're saying na meron kasing isang category ng plunder na made of or that constitutes gifts to a public official. But my question is, as a lawyer, because when I read that provision, ang pagkakaintindi ko, it has to be in relation, kasi ang kasama niya sa sentence would be kickbacks, commissions, and in relation to government contracts. Does it fall under plunder if it's an outright gift or donation?
Sa tingin ko, it should fall under graft lang yan.
Graft
hindi
lang.
naman po pwedeng plunder dahil hindi naman pera ng gobyerno yan eh.
Nako.
So, paano papasok ang plunder? Graft siguro, yes. Anti-graft, receiving gift.
Could it be that merong effort na hindi bailable yung offense na
Dapat talaga graft lang eh. Pinagpilitan kasi ni Boying Remulla eh, di ba? Kaya ano ho yan, maraming di siyang ayon sa ginawa na nitong si Ombudsman Boying.
i-file?
Hindi, yun na yun. That's the hidden agenda. Plunder para hindi makalabas, para makulong.
Which element of plunder do you think will be hard to prove for the prosecution in this case?
Una-una, it's not even government money. Private money yun eh. Kaya you have to prove a series of transactions leading to that. Ano na ipuprove nila yun?
Yeah, it's a combination or a series of
Tumanggap
overt acts.
lang ng campaign funds. O ano pa.
But one of the co-accused in this case na mapafilan din daw is the donor, which would be Mike Defensor, apart from 2 other individuals. Do you think there's basis for their allegation na pinafilan sila because they're outspoken against this administration?
I think it's quite obvious. They're hunting down, persecuting those who are very critical of the administration. Yan naman ang kitang-kita ng tao. That's why we have 1 million people there sa EDSA ngayon.
Marcoleta has also pointed to a COMELEC ruling which says he says it's found that no election offense in his receipt of the campaign donations. How do you reconcile this COMELEC decision that Marcoleta is pointing to with the decision of the Ombudsman to file a plunder case against him?
May inconsistency kasi, di ba? Yan ang sabing walang case, and yet, parang ang dating sa akin eh, walang case sa COMELEC, pagkatapos, tinanggap mo yung pera, hindi mo dineclare. So, you are admitting that you received such amount, and yet you did not declare it. Baka may problema ka dun sa isang kasong yun.
You mean to say, like you said, there could be a graft case in this.
Yeah.
Kasi tumanggap siya ng ganitong pera pero hindi niya dineclare sa statement of contributions
Yes,
and
baka
expenses
baka dun
or
siya.
SOSE, and then, or kung wala rin sa salin niya, that can also be a source of liability. Pero ano yung dapat na approach dito ng gobyerno? And in your opinion as a lawyer, ano ba yung, kung merong mga offenses man, what should the
O hindi
government
file mo, if it's really graft, di magpile ka ng graft, let the court decide whether you committed a crime or not. Pero masyado kasing obvious na critic ng gobyerno ito, tapos tinatarget mo kahit na hindi plunder, gusto mo i-plunder para ikulong mo.
na
Maliw. Ika nga meron silang sinasabi na lokohin mo lelang mo. Parang ganun eh. Ganun yung epekto nito eh. Yung sinabi, accountability, lokohin mo lelang mo. Parang ganun eh, no? Bira.
Yun ang obvious. Yun ang obvious.
You mentioned earlier that merong mga statements in the past, si Ombudsman, that they will file cases also against Senator Joel Villanueva and Senator Chis Escudero. From Monday's press conference of the Ombudsman, sabi niya they're still doing a case build-up.
Natatawa nga ako doon, in my show kanina. Sabi ko, excuse me, Boying. Sabi ko, when you made a statement regarding that, bigla ko naalala, ikaw ang dating Secretary of Justice, sabihin mo, you're not contented with the findings of DOJ, of which you were the head, and you're not contented with yourself. Di ba? Sila nag-umpisa mag-imbestiga sa DOJ.
So are you...
Masyadong halata, in other words.
Yung tipong yung DOJ secretary siya tamimi ng hindi pa satisfied si ombudsman aso lang naman ako ng ombudsman dito, sige gagalikan na namin sa susunod. Yung tipong para mapatagal lang. paabutin hanggang sa paglalatag ng verdict para dito kay VP Sara. Siguro pagka mayroong maling nasabi, etong si Joel Villanueva sa impeachment ni VP Sara, baka doon pa lang siya makukulong. Pero may mga panahon na to, safe pa siya.
Tama na ang pagbabalat kayo ninyo. Kakantahan ko na kayo.
Kantahan mo na.
Kayo.
But sa palagay mo, hindi na itutuloy yung mga kaso against Senators Joel Villanueva and Chis Escudero just because they switched to the new majority?
Actually, hindi natin alam yan. Pwede na lang i-delay. Pero, maaalala ng tao yung mga pangako mo na papaila mo tapos nagkaroon lang ng switching ng political loyalties, hindi ka na gumagalaw.
What about the decision to make former DPWH Secretary Bonoan a state witness? This was also announced by the Ombudsman on Monday.
Ibig sabihin niya, wala silang kaso. Kailangan ko ng testigo. Basta ako, natatawa na lang ako sa kanila.
Oo, pero hindi ba...
Para sa impeachment yan eh. 1,000 na yata dadali ng abogado, ibig sabihin wala kang kaso.
So you're saying na yung pagdagdag din ng mga abogado sa prosecution is a sign of a weakness of their case, or what is your
It's a
interpretation?
confession, you do not have a case.
Or could it be na maraming ebidensya, kaya kailangan
No,
damihan
anong
yung lawyers?
ebidensya? What kind of evidence do you have? Yun lang sa testigo eh. Can you imagine you have the same common witnesses? Anong ibig sabihin yan? Kasi your witnesses are supposed to damage yung kalaban mo. Kinuha ng kalaban mo, di ibig sabihin walang kwenta yung testimonya mo at gagamitin pa against you.
Ganon katindi. Ibig sabihin parang hindi diskumpiyado itong si Atty. Salvador Panelo sa defense team itong si VP Sara. Parang ika nga ba, magaling itong mga to. Mahusay ito.
So you're optimistic that the case against Vice President Sara is not strong?
It will fail.
And you're saying that with confidence. Why?
Kasi obvious naman yung walang basis eh. Kahit tingnan mo sa confidential funds, tingnan mo sa ilgato, puro wala. Na-discuss natin ito ng ilang beses sa programa ko eh. Talagang walang kaso eh. Talagang the goal is to undermine Inday Sara, to disqualify her.
Wala bang kaso? Kasi yung confidential funds, they also are
It's not
calling
a final
for...
decision.
What do you mean, not a
Hindi
final
pa, di ba? Nagkaroon ng decision daw na irregular. Pero subject to, to appeal review. At nag-file na sila.
you mean by the Commission on
Yes,
Audit?
paano ka ba?
Ngayon pagka sinabi ng COA, ganito yan, ganyan yan. Ganon, akit silang Korte Suprema. Aabuto ng Korte Suprema tapos pagka yung naging desisyon ng Korte Suprema ay kasi sa COA pwede doon pwede magkabatukan doon pagka binatukan ni Marcos Jr. Ano yan, patigasin yan. Dapat talaga ganyan yung findings diyan. Di ba? Findings dapat ganito. Siyempre, under yan ng executive. Pero pagdating sa Supreme Court, ilalatag doon, oral argument, hindi nakapalag yung mga sinasabing may problema si VP Sara sa COA. Ito alam din ng mga taga-COA pagka sir, ma'am, paano yun? Pagka umakit silang Supreme Court, makikilid din si VP Sara doon kasi wala naman talaga problema ginagawan lang natin dito sa COA level gagawin natin. Pero pagdating sa Supreme Court, pagka linatag yan, makiklear saan gagawin natin? Hindi, basta gagamitin natin sa impeachment. Gawin yun ang problema si Sara. Ganun ho yun. Kaya yung COA medyo alangan din na gumalaw dahil dyan sa apila na yan, hindi na apil sila. Pag talagang pinanindigan natin, pupunta ng Supreme Court yan. Pag pumunta ng Supreme Court, wala na, hindi na kontrolado ni Marcos Jr. yan. Kunwari, mayayari tayo, di ba?
File.
What about yung mga assets and cash na hindi niya na-declare ni Vice President Sara sa kanyang salin?
Sinasabi ng abogado niya na na-declare niya sa ibang ibang line. Hindi na-declare pa rin.
So you're saying na pagka nagkaroon ng trial, you're confident that all of these will be clarified?
Yes. Kasi tingnan mo why are you going to declare your assets kung hindi mo ma-justify yung legitimacy ng acquisition mo? Nilagay mo nga sa salin eh. Hindi totoo na hindi nilagay. Pinaliwanag ng lawyer, hindi. Nilagay namin yung sa other assets. O anong masama doon? In the same document, nandun.
Mabalik tayo doon sa INC rally that's being held, and it seems like it was triggered by the Ombudsman's announcement that they will be filing charges against Senator Rodante Marcoleta. Marcoleta has suggested that the timing of the plunder case is intended to prevent him from participating in the impeachment trial of Vice President Sara Duterte. Do you see any objective basis for that claim?
First, I do not think that the Iglesia ni Cristo is staging this lightning rally for and on behalf of Marcoleta. They've been doing that. They've been staging rallies and protests against the government for a failed governance, for accountability and all this stuff. Matagal na yan eh. Kasama lang si...
Ito, bottom line kailangan pa hong lumubog. Kasi yung yung INC bot, kumbaga, mulat na, di ba? Mulat na sila na yung mga nangyayari sa ating bansa ay sa kagagawan ng palpak na pamumuno ni Marcos Jr. Siguro yung iba, yung mga religious group, KOJC, matagal nang mulat yung KOJC, matagal nang mulat yan. Wala na tayong kailangan i-explain dyan sa mga yan. Alam nila na addict tong administrasyon na to. Alam nila na lahat ng nangyayaring pagbaha, lahat ng nangyayaring kaguluhan dahil sa kapalpakan nitong si Marcos Jr. Ayan, KOJC, INC, mulat na yan. Ngayon, hinihintay na lang nating malubog sa baha yung mga simbahan. Pagka lumubog na sa baha, baka sakali, ay sa bagay, okay lang lubog yung kanilang mga kongregasyon sa baha basta meron lang maleta yung kanilang mga tumatayo sa taas. O yung iba naman, absuelto sa kanilang mga kaso. Yan lang naman Alam mo yung pupunta si Martin Romualdez, kasama niyo yung pamangkin niya si Sandro Marcos, may dala-dalang suitcase, di ba? Yun, di ba? Sabi ng mga pare, okay lang, lubog kayo dyan, basta kami, paldo kami. Kawawang mga Katoliko. Dinulo. Kawawa talaga. Ito isa sa mga pinakakawawang relihiyon sa Pilipinas. Yung mga Katoliko. Yung napunti siya. Na maraming Katoliko dito kasi, nakakatawa, si Father merong suitcase, di ba? Kayo, siya may suitcase, kayo, pipigilan kayo, kalmahan nyo lang ang mga damdamin nyo sa gobyerno. Yung mga bahay nyo lubog. Si Father, meron suitcase. Huwag mainit ang ulo, ha? Huwag natin labanan ng ganito ganyan. Hindi naman lalabanan. Tayo magsalita.
Yung Marcoleta dyan.
Kawawa, di ba?
Pero hindi yan talagang goal ng Iglesia ni Cristo. Gusto nga nila, we want to be united. Magkaisa na lang tayo, huwag na tayo magulo. Ayaw nila ng gulo eh.
But kung hindi nag-announce ang ombudsman yesterday na magpa-file sila ng plunder cases against Senator Marcoleta, would this rally
Yes.
still have happened today?
Oh, definitely.
The timing. So naplano na ba
Matagal
ito?
ko nang naririnig yan eh. Akala ko nga nung 28 pa eh. Matagal nang pinag-uusapan yan.
But why didn't they obtain a permit? Parang wala daw, according to the information we've received or heard so far, parang wala daw permit for the rally?
Hindi, unang-una, tama yung ginawa nila, hindi nila in-announce. Kasi pag in-announce mo yan, maraming blockade yan, hindi na sila makakapasok dyan. Kung magiging prepared ang subject ng demonstration mo. Kaya tama yung ginawa nila. Saka you don't need a rally for that.
So this is just, in your opinion, a constitutional right of
Yes,
assembly.
definitely.
Ano ang magiging point nitong rally na to? Because right now, we see already thousands of people in EDSA. And doon sa Liwasang Bonifacio, the crowd is also growing. Pero wala pa kaming naririnig kung ano yung dahilan for the rally.
Uy, sinabi na naman nila dahil na continuation yan eh, ng mga rallies nila noon. Same reasons for staging rallies. Protest, condemnation, a call for change. Lahat yan ang point ng rallies.
With the Iglesia ni Cristo publicly expressing their support for Senator Marcoleta, I saw the statement of their spokesperson and also calling out for the accountability of those involved in the corruption, in the massive corruption that they are mentioning na nangyari dito sa Pilipinas. What do you think the
Kasi
government,
di ba? The government has
what
stopped.
should they do? But before you answer this question, we'll have to take a short. I'd like to read to you and to everyone watching yung naging
Yes.
statement ng Iglesia ni Cristo spokesperson, Brother Edwil Zabala. He said, in part, hindi tutol ang Iglesia ni Cristo sa pagpapatupad ng batas, pero tutol kami sa pagbaluktot sa batas, lalo na kung ang layunin ay para pagtakpan ang katiwalian. Gaya ng alam ng marami, si Senator Dante Marcoleta ay nanguna sa pag-iimbestiga sa isa sa pinakamalaking pandarambong na naganap sa ating kasaysayan. Ang ipinagtataka namin ay kung bakit siya na nagsusulong sa pag-expose sa mga sangkot sa napakalaking pagnanakaw sa Pilipinas ang kakasuhan at ipapakulong sa halip na ang mga na-expose. Ang ikinakaso kay Senator Marcoleta ay plunder na isang non-bailable crime. Sa makatuwid, ipakukulong siya at hindi pwedeng magpiyansa hanggang hindi natatapos ang paglilitis sa kanya. Sa madaling salita ay hindi niya maitutuloy ang paglalantad o pag-expose sa mga nasasangkot sa pandarangbong na naganap. So, given this statement, what do you think the government should do? It's clear they're already saying ano yung mga criticisms nila.
Well, I think it should not proceed, but I don't think it won't. It will proceed.
What will proceed?
O yung pag-prosecute kay Senator Marcoleta, ang pagpapakulong sa kanya, maliban pa sa you're stopping the investigation. Kasi whatever happened to the investigation, bigla nilang ginito. Ang nakikita ko pa dyan, konektado yun sa impeachment. Kasi di ba gusto nilang babaan yung threshold ng two-thirds.
Two-thirds
Oh,
that,
para pag hindi
that
ka
would normally be 16.
Pag hindi ka makapag-participate, suspendido ka raw, babagsak yung magiging 14 na lang. Eh, konektado lahat yan eh.
But how do you think this will shape public opinion moving forward until the impeachment trial? Because it looks like the government's powers are also being used to influence the outcome of the impeachment trial. If we're basing it on what you're saying, na ipapakulong na galing doon sa minority para mababaan yung two-thirds threshold for a conviction that's required by the Constitution.
You will only escalate the rage, the anger, the fury of the people. Kasi alam nating lahat. Ang galit ng tao sa ginagawa ng administrasyon. Hindi ba ano siya? Negative 15. Ang bagsak na ng kanilang rating.
You mean is this the President's approval rating?
Yeah, yung administration mismo. Di ba? Negative 15. Ibig sabihin, talagang there's a failed governance at ang tao is asking for a change. At sa halip na magkaroon ka ng pagbabago, lalo mong pinalalala ang sitwasyon. That's why people are so angry. They're almost on the verge of revolting.
But your opinion as a lawyer, would putting Senator Marcoleta in prison along with Senator Jinggoy Estrada lower the voting required to convict Vice President Sara?
Constitutionally, that is wrong. The Constitution says it's two-thirds, whether nakakulong ka o wala ka rito, yung 24 senador ka pa rin. So, para sa akin.
You're saying two-thirds of all members,
Yeah, all members.
of Senate?
24. So, 16. Saka isa pa, kahit pakulong mo yung 12, hindi nila makukuha yung 16 votes for conviction.
So parang those that are absent are a type of abstention,
No, parang ganun.
in your opinion. Pero what would it take for them to bring down the voting requirement? Would it just be the Senate Impeachment Court declaring that they have brought down the votes, or would the Supreme Court need to decide on this matter?
Well, it's a constitutional issue, so it's the Supreme Court that is the final arbiter.
And when it comes to the impeachment trial, you wrote an article that Senate President Win Gatchalian should preside over the impeachment trial even if he's not a lawyer.
Yes, because you don't need to be a lawyer. You need only common sense, you need intelligence, you need objectivity, you need an unprejudiced mind. Ang nakikita ko siguro, baka tingin nila kay Gatchalian hindi nila kaya. Kaya hahanap sila ng kaya nilang i-manipulate. Kaya ng mga bumaliktad.
You mean to tell me ang movement to have a different presiding officer other than the Senate President is because someone wants or you're
Sa tingin
alluding
ko-
to a group na gusto nila,
Sa tingin
nakokontrol
ko,
nila yung
sa
presiding
tingin ko,
officer?
itong si Gatchalian, sa tingin ko, the way, mga demeanor niya, hindi, parang ano siya, independent-minded siya.
So you're saying nakikialam ba yung administration? Is
Ay,
that what
dati na.
you're implying?
Matagal na, I'm not implying, I'm saying it.
Okay. But Senator Win Gatchalian, Senate President Win Gatchalian, has a sibling that's in the cabinet of the President, Secretary Rex Gatchalian, and he also has a brother na nasa Congress. Won't that affect his independence?
Hindi rin, you know why? Alam mo yung tatay nila, di ba yung sa reclamation? Hindi makakuha ng lisensya despite the four children in the government, hindi sila binibigyan. Lalo mas walang influensya.
So you're confident that if Senate President Win Gatchalian is the presiding officer, he can be independent and he can
Yes, I think so,
be
yes.
competent.
Given his demeanor as a senator, given his statements, palagay ko, marunong ito. Tsaka madali lang naman yung
Kahit may mga objections on the floor.
Oh,
na
sabi
legal
nga
ang
ni
basis.
Paolo ko, kayo kung may objection kayo sa floor, di mag-decide yung mga senador. Kasi the presiding officer need not rule na siya lang mismo. Pwede naman yung, kaya nga kayo mga judges, senators, hindi yan sa courtroom na isa lang nag-decide. Di ba?
Yeah, but in the past kasi when I was at the impeachment in the defense team for Chief Justice Corona, then presiding officer, Senate President Juan Ponce Enrile would decide on the objections and rule on them.
Because the senators themselves agree. Kung hindi mag-agree, di overrule siya.
Yeah.
Diba?
Wala pang naging announcement ang Senate as to who will be the presiding officer. Would you have any information if it will be Senate President Win Gatchalian?
But the Senate President Wing Gatchalian has already issued a statement. I'm prepared for this. I've studied this. Nag-aral eh. Sabi ko nga, tingnan mo lang yung mga previous impeachment. Marami kang matututuhan.
So it's likely that it might be Senate President Win Gatchalian that will be the presiding officer.
I don't think he will allow himself to be ousted from that position of being the presiding officer. You know, it's a historic role and there is honor on it. Let us not deprive him of that. Magantay kayo ng panahon nyo. Ang problema sa inyo eh. Gusto nyo lang tanggalin si Mr. Gatchalian dyan.
And then last question, you're seeing right now on the screen
Yeah.
how many people are gathered sa EDSA. Napakadami. It looks, we don't know the exact number but they're already in the thousands.
Ngayon na nga mga kababayan, dito na una tatapusin ang ating reaction video. Maraming salamat sa pag-support sa page update. Mag-ingat po kayo lahat. Mahal natin Pilipinas.